Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, that list includes Even the Ocean and Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Aha. I was supposed to say something clever about Kirby, but it is gone from me.
Yeah. That game.
That game, yeah. The
Kirby.
game shall not be named.
Yep.
No, it's fine. So you can talk about Kirby.
It's Kirby. It's the new Kirby.
Yeah. Everyone loves Kirby. He can turn into a car.
He can in fact turn into a car and an ice cream machine. Yep.
An ice cream machine. Ooh.
Or a soda machine. I've not seen ice cream machine yet. I can't confirm that. That might be later in the game, but he can definitely turn into
ice cream machine.
A soda machine.
Like a soft serve machine?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, that would be exciting.
That's the thing on Chopped everybody fights over.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because
man. Imagine Kirby on one of those cooking shows. He'd be incredible. Imagine if they were like revealing the secret ingredient and it just was Kirby.
No, the secret ingredient is Pokemon.
Ooh, which one? Pikachu.
I don't know. Which ones do they eat? Because I know they eat some of them.
Which is the most delicious Pokemon?
No, because it's Chopped. They would have the least delicious one.
Oh, okay. Voltorb.
They would open it up and it'd be like, oh no, it's a durian and a Jigglypuff.
Jigglypuff is delicious. I feel like this must have been settled at some point on the internet. You know, Pokemon has been around for a while. I'm sure somebody has asked that question and gotten just an overly thorough response. So
yeah,
I have to go look that up after this.
Do all Pokemon, and I apologize to my vegan friends, do all Pokemon taste the same? Or do different Pokemon have different tastes?
It's like, it just tastes like Pokemon to me. No, I want just the full deep dive. The list of ranking all Pokemon from least delicious to most delicious. I want the 4 quadrants plotting what they taste like, which ones are like pleasantly fruity, ones are kind of gamey. I don't know. I feel like you could just go all over the place.
Speaking of things that are pleasantly fruity.
Okay. Where are we going with this?
I saw the Batman this weekend.
Oh, that,
It was, in fact,
to follow that.
Pleasantly fruity. No, it was not at all. I just could not let that segue go. I had to have something.
Oh, okay. I was like, is this like a Robert Pattinson thing? Not sure.
No, I have no strong feelings about Robert Pattinson. I just spent 3 hours with him, and I still have no strong feelings about him.
Oh,
he has a blank space, a cipher, on which Batman and Bruce Wayne really is projected.
Is that good? Is that
He's
what
fine.
you want in Batman?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you want in Batman. I would like, I mean, really, you're casting Bruce Wayne, right? That's my take on it.
Sure.
And I think this is, of all the Batman, this is the one the movie where they spend the least amount of time as Bruce Wayne.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So you get, it's not an origin story. You don't get any background. You don't flash back to Pearl's in an alley and Martha getting killed. So it's like all of that has already happened. He's been Batman for 2 years already by the time you enter this movie. So it's, you don't get the thing that every director feels compelled to do, which is to sort of rehash the origin and the birth of Batman.
Well, that's good. It only took him like 6 or 7 or 8 movies to get over it.
Right. So yeah, he really is, like, from the opening scene on, he's just Batman most of the time.
Just doing Batman stuff.
Just doing Batman things. Yeah.
Okay.
He's also
That's
the
funny
most...
because I really like the Batman Begins. I like Batman Begins. I'm not calling it the Batman Begins. Like I'm not at that grandpa stage yet. I really enjoy that movie. Like, but my favorite part is everything up until the point where he puts on the Batman suit. And at that point, I'm just like, oh, it's just a Batman movie. Whatever.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I saw it with Sarah and we were sort of compelled to compare it to the Dark Knight trilogy, obviously. And her observation was it was nice to not have 45 minutes of him trying to climb out of a hole. which is exactly what happened in Batman Begins. So yeah, it was we both appreciated its sort of efficiency. It got right down to doing Batman things.
Yeah,
well, good. Which
that's what you want in a Batman movie.
It's exactly what I want. Yeah. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. The sort of the I Am Vengeance sort of grim dark reality of it is a little goofy. It is more like Seven than I was prepared for it to be. It's pretty seriously grim. But I enjoyed it. It's some really good action sequences. It is the most detective work I've ever seen Batman do, which was kind of exciting and fun. It's a lot of him like looking around for clues and piecing things together and stuff like that. So it had a pretty genuine mystery kind of at the center of it that I was engaged with. It was good. I had a good time with it. It is
cool.
Entertaining. And it was exciting to go to the movies again for the first time in 2 years and 3 months.
Oh, you saw this in a theater?
Yeah, we went to a movie theater. Yeah.
Wow. Don't know if I'm there yet, but
no.
Interesting. And you're here to talk about it. So
I am here to share. Yeah, we deliberately picked like a Sunday matinee.
Yeah, you can see like at 7 a.m.
Yeah, no, it's like it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's the little indie movie theater here in Harrisburg is called the Midtown Cinema. Shout out to them because it's awesome, and they generally show a lot of foreign films and indie movies and A24 horror movies and stuff like that. But for some odd and surprising reason, they've been showing the Batman for the last couple of weeks. So I was like, this is our chance. Because they're pro-masking all the time. You have to show your Vax card to get in. Even at this point where a lot of places and people seem to sort of think COVID is over, they're still pretty hardcore about their routines and guidelines there. So we felt pretty good about it. It was nice. Plus, again, it was Saturday matinee, so there were like 6 people in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did have a moment though where like we got there before everybody else, and the next person that walked in, we were like, "Don't sit next to us. Don't sit next to us. Don't sit
next to you." Like,
and they did. They sat as far away as humanly possible. And I was like, "Okay, good."
Okay, yeah.
Yep. It was nice. It was nice to nice to get out of the house. Nice to go to the movies. I like going to the movies. We used to go 2-3 times a month back in the day, and to not have that as part of our sort of entertainment routine, not part of our sort of fun getting out of the house and doing stuff kind of thing, has been sad. Certainly you can watch movies at home, and there is something fun about the experience of just hanging out in your PJs and cuddling on the couch with my dog and watching a movie. But man, I like going to the movies.
Yeah, I don't know if I like going to the movies. I mean, I like being in the theater watching a movie on a huge screen, but I don't like the fact that there are 200 other people in the same room.
Yeah.
Like even before there was the plague.
Yeah, it's always a gamble, right? I mean, anything where there's a lot of people together in one place for any reason whatsoever, it's always a gamble. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
well,
yeah.
I never seen Robert Pattinson in anything until Tenet. And he was great in that. So I was like,
he was good in Tenet. He was one of the things I liked about Tenet. Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the few characters with the personality. So I was like, okay, I could see him as Batman.
Yeah. Did you ever see The Lighthouse? Him and Willem Dafoe?
Is Robert Pattinson in that?
Yeah.
Then I did not see it.
You did not? Okay. That's really good too, and he's quite good in it. And,
yeah, I heard that's also very good.
Yeah, would recommend. Yeah.
Wait, isn't that like Daniel Radcliffe?
No.
Okay. It's just somebody. Everybody in that movie has a lot of facial hair, so I have trouble telling who anybody is.
Everybody's very beardy. Yes, yeah.
I was like, could be Daniel Radcliffe, could be
it might be
Denzel Washington. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen Daniel Radcliffe with a beard.
Oh, I think that's just his thing now.
Is that his thing? Yeah. He's a serious adult now. He's no longer Harry Potter.
Well, he's something.
But yeah, so that was my, I was gonna say 2-minute movie review, but this has been slightly more than 2 minutes. But yeah, I enjoyed the Batman. Had a good time watching it.
People like the Batman, so we'll allow it.
Yeah, the is very important.
Yeah, that's how you distinguish it from the 15 million other Batman movies.
Sure,
come before
so
it.
as not to be confused with
Batman. A Batman. It's not just any Batman. It's this one specific Batman.
Sure, not Batman, but the Batman.
Yeah.
What was the last movie you saw in a theater? The last one we saw was Knives Out.
The last movie I saw in a theater, maybe the last movie I'll ever see in a theater, who knows how it's going to go, was Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker, which is the worst Star Wars movie.
Oh.
I can't believe it.
So you went out on a high note, at least.
What a way to go out on that entire tradition. So just amused that was it. That was the one.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's all I can do is just look back and be like, well, that was ridiculous.
I mean, it's funny because I didn't go and I wasn't there and I didn't have to see it, but it's probably not funny if you spent, $20 to see it. And it's the last memory you have of going to the theater.
I'm disappointed that the movie was not good, but I do enjoy that. I was like, oh, if there was going to be one last movie that I see in a theater, might as well be that one. So, sure.
Just to turn you off from movie going for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's like, why would I go back after that?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, video games, DJ.
Video games. I wanted to pour one out for the collective player base of Dragalia Lost this week, because they just very unceremoniously announced last week, in the midst of the 3.5-year anniversary celebrations, that the game will stop receiving new content in several months, weeks. It's imminent. After which it will be shut down at an unspecified time. So people have been very upset about this because it kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. You could kind of tell that they were slowing down development a little bit, but part of me thought, well, the game has been around for 3.5 years. That's probably just the natural order of things.
Yeah. Until the inevitable Dragalia Lost 2.
Well, yeah, who knows what's going to happen at this point.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Did they just pack up and you never see it again? Or, I mean, it's Nintendo, and I mean, Nintendo has a closet full of IP that people miss that may never see the light of day again. So who knows what they'll do. That's a weird choice.
Yeah, we don't really know, because it's like this was a brand new thing for them. And I remember when it came out, it was kind of uncertain in my mind, like how much I would get in this game, because it was just, there were no familiar characters or anything. So I started it up, and it was just an entire cast of unknown faces doing things in a world which I was not familiar with. But I have to say, over the last 3.5 years, they've done such a good job of building up sort of the backstory behind all these characters and the world that they live in, that it's like, oh, I'll be kind of sad when they just pull the plug on this thing a few months from now or whenever it happens.
Do you get a sense when playing it that like player base has dropped off, and you can tell from a content standpoint they're serving up less of it, or at least it's slowed down, but does it feel underappreciated from a player perspective?
That's hard to say. I don't really have a great handle on just how active the player base is. My closest exposure to it is like I'll check the Dragalia Lost subreddit every once in a while. Yeah. And but let me tell you, that is not a happy place to be this week.
Speaking of things that are grimdark, right?
They are firmly in the what are the stages of grief? It's denial. I think they may still be in the denial phase, because they're still throwing stuff around like, oh, well, maybe they'll make a Switch game, or maybe there will be a sequel or something.
Oh, so, bargaining. They're bargaining. That's where they're at. Yeah.
Oh, is that bargaining? Okay. Yeah. Oh, actually, so no, let me add in this other thing. There are still definitely people who are thinking this may be a poorly timed April Fool's joke. But it seems
Denial.
pretty
There's
definitely
denial. Yeah.
that that is not the case. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's an awful joke.
Mm.
That's just, I mean, there are terrible video game April Fool's jokes every year, but that would not be a nice thing to do to your fan base.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk to those people on April 2nd, though.
Yeah, see where they are then.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just a sad situation.
Yeah. Well, you've seen the full run of this thing. You were there at the beginning with this game, and now you're sort of approaching the grand finale here. That's quite a run, is that?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this happens to a lot of gacha games. And from what I hear, 3.5 years is actually a pretty decent run, and since it's not like, it's not one of the huge ones, like Puzzle and Dragons has been around for like a decade almost at this point. But, I've played a lot of games, like online exclusive games, that have eventually shut down or had their servers closed for whatever reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in most of those cases, it's been months or even years after I have just walked away from those games and sort of not really had any intention of going back and playing them at all.
Yeah, that's generally been my sort of experience with that too. Is it sort of like, oh, remember we used to play that game? Then you shut it down.
Yeah. And I always feel like, oh, I should be more upset about this, but it's not likely that I was going to go back and play a whole lot of that anyway. But this one, I'm still checking in with pretty much every day. Like, I don't spend a huge amount of time with it, but I'll pop in, maybe run a couple quests, just see how my little characters are doing. And I don't know how big the fan base is, but the subreddit is certainly active. So there are still quite a lot of people who are very involved with it.
Yeah. Do you have a sense, I don't know if Nintendo's communicated, like, what does shutdown look like? They pull the plug completely, you no longer have access to it, or can you still do it, but there's no new content?
I imagine it will be more the former. So they said that in a few months, they're going to wrap up the main storyline, and at that point, there will not be any new, was it content? Yeah, no new content, no new characters. Actually, somebody should fact check this. They said for sure there will not be any new characters added. It seems like the fan base has sussed out, like, oh, maybe they will add a few more, like, boss fights to the game, because they, now it seems like they have a series of 5 or 6 boss fights potentially they could add, and they've only added 2 of them. But then they did just say, like, at a certain point, the game will shut down, and it sounds like it will no longer be accessible.
No.
Which is too bad. Like, you won't even be able to load it up and just look at your little roster of guys anymore, which is just a shame.
But hey, maybe they'll make a Switch game.
Maybe they'll make a Switch game. Maybe they will just, announce a sequel. I think that's happened in a few cases with these games. So we'll see. Nintendo has been extremely tight-lipped about all of this. I mean, it's only been a week, so who knows what the plan is in terms of just, like, PR like response to all this. But still just a little sad. I am not envious at all of whoever is running the Dragalia social media accounts for the last week, because they're still doing updates. They're still like, hey, there's a new thing going on this week. And I'll click on the post, and all of the comments will just be like, thank you so much for supporting this game for so long. And then there'll be like drawings of all the characters with like just tears streaming down their faces. And I'm like, oh man,
geez.
This is just sad, guys.
Oh.
So, yeah, very sad about that. Much sadder than I expected it to be, but I think I'm just seeing the community's reaction makes me realize sort of the extent of how invested some people got in this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So would you, in the sort of the shutdown date at some point in the near distant future, would you recommend people jump into the game at this point? Is there sort of enough to do to sort of keep it interesting until the grand finale, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty fun game. It's questionable.
Just don't get too attached.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I don't know how much I'd recommend spending a ton of money on it at this point to do extra summons or whatever. But, it's always sort of just like, how much is your enjoyment of this game worth to you? I use that to determine like how much I want to buy into the little DLC shop or whatever. But yeah, it's still a pretty fun game. Cool characters. Actually a pretty interesting story that I have admittedly sort of fallen behind on. As they ramp up to the last couple of climactic episodes, I should probably like try and get a little more current with that. But yeah, as far as mobile games go, I thought it was pretty good. As a gacha game, it's extremely generous. I've managed to get through most of the 3.5 years with, just subsisting on the free crystals that they hand out very frequently. So that's been very nice.
Cool.
But yeah, just unexpected news.
Yeah. I've dipped a toe into all of the Nintendo mobile offerings over the years, but never tried this one. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. This is maybe this is my chance, my last chance to try it out before it goes away.
Yeah, I mean, definitely worth booting up. Play it for a week. If it's not your thing, you can just dump it. But not going to be able to do that like a year from now. So if you get curious, then it's too late. Plus, right now, like I said, it's the 3.5 year anniversary, so they're just throwing summons out like it's candy. So great time to start playing.
Cool. I like candy.
Yeah. So anyway, hope the Dragalia Lost community is just hanging there, guys. I'm a little worried about everybody, but sure it'll be fine. I hope there's some positive news in the future for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said they're still like releasing content and they still have a story they're going to wrap up and stuff like that. So there's still things to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's hard to think positively about the stuff happening, knowing that, the shutdown is inevitable at this point, or it's much sooner than people were expecting. But yeah, might as well, enjoy the rest of your time with the game.
Yeah. So, what have you been playing lately besides Dragalia Lost?
I have been playing this game called Even the Ocean by Analgesic Productions. Not a recent game, but here's what happened with this. These are the developers who made Anodyne and Anodyne 2, as it were. Oh. Big fan of both of those. They have a new game coming out at some point between now and the shutdown of Dragalia Lost, presumably. And interested in that, but I thought I would take the opportunity to go back into their back catalog and check out some of the stuff I missed. So this game came up. It is I believe they describe it as a narrative platformer from, I think it came out in like 2017. So the premise is it takes place in this mysterious island with this big, like, fancy city on it. And what's going on in this world is that there is a balance of light and dark energy. Stop me if you've heard this before. But it doesn't turn into, or so far it hasn't turned into just, the armies of light and darkness clashing or whatever, if this were a Final Fantasy game. But they use this light and dark sort of model to, or the way they describe it is light energy has these like properties associated with like verticality and vertical movement, and dark energy is the opposite, and it's like very horizontal. And since this is the platforming game, what you end up doing is you have this energy bar which shows your balance between light and dark energy, and as you interact with things in the environment, it will tip the balance towards, like, more towards one side of it. So if you're skewed towards light energy, you can do much higher jumps, and as you would expect, if you have more dark energy, you just move faster and you can do longer jumps horizontally. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So this game is going to be about very shrewd management of this light and dark gauge to do platforming challenges.
Yeah. Do you have to, like, declare a major and specialize in one? Do you get
No, you kind of just manipulate it on the fly.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's interesting because that balance gauge also doubles as your health meter. And if it ever goes 100% in either direction, you just die and start over at the most recent checkpoint, which has not been a huge factor, but it is a consideration. But anyway, so you start off, you play as this character, Aleph, something like that, who is a maintenance worker who maintains these power plants on this island. These power plants harness the light energy and pump it all towards this, like, gleaming capital city in the center of the island, which is definitely one of those cities where it's like just the extremely decadent modern society. They're like, oh, look at how much light energy we've stored up in the city, and look at all the amazing things we've built with it. But you get the sense that, like, oh, probably not great that they're using all this light energy to do this. So there's sort of just that undercurrent of like, oh, wonder when the other shoes are going to drop on this fancy city they've got here. But the game sort of alternates between you doing these power plant sections where you have to go to one of these power plants and perform platforming tasks to get some of it up and running again. And the rest of it is you finish the job at the power plant and head back to the city, and you have conversations with your neighbors, essentially, which is very unexpected in contrast with the platforming you're doing most of the time. Because like the platforming stuff, it just feels like you're playing a Mega Man game or like Celeste. But then you go back and you have these very sort of like personal and kind of introspective conversations with people, just like checking on how they're doing. And some of your neighbors are not having a great time lately in this big fancy city. So they just open up about their problems to you.
And does that turn into like an RPG kind of thing where then missions and objectives kind of spin out from there? Or is it not quite so video gamey?
So far it has seemed like they keep them fairly distinct or like separated, which has been interesting. Like a lot of even when you go back to the city, a lot of your time is spent between you going and talking to the mayor, who is definitely up to no good. I mean, he is like, he's just like the complete sleazy politician guy. He's like got this huge smile. He's got the ridiculous, like, got a pompadour almost. And he's just he's always like, oh, you gotta get a picture of me with Aleph here. It's going to look great on the news or whatever. So that's very sketchy. But you spend your time at home talking with the mayor, and then you'll like head back after you're off the clock and go back to your neighborhood and chat with people. But the mayor, like when you're talking to him, that's when he sort of doles out the next couple of mission objectives and sends you off to the next few power plants for you to fix up. Because there is this sort of like story developing about like what's causing all these problems at the power plants. And, that sort of builds into the suspicion that, oh, maybe it's not great that we're relying on these power plants to like support our lifestyle, this big fancy city and all that.
Right.
So that's as much as I want to say about the storyline, because it's a lot of surprising stuff happens after that. But it's been fun. Like it's a real weird contrast having these very thoughtful story sections and then just going out and like bouncing on like big cartoon mushrooms or walking down conveyor belts and stuff you would do in a Mega Man game, trying to get these power plants back up and running.
Does it work though? I mean, it sounds like it could potentially be a weird balance.
Yeah, I'm into it. It feels a lot like their other games, weirdly, that would switch between... this actually came out before Anodyne 2, I believe. But Anodyne 1, at least, had very video gamey, like, dungeon sections where you would just be, like, playing a 2D Zelda game, essentially. And that didn't have as strong of a story component, but what there was of the story was just so weird and, like, bizarre, like, the sort of things the characters would say. It didn't really have... felt a little disconnected from the dungeons, because... you're just talking to people outside as you made your way across the overworld. But it always had such just a bizarre personality that it kept me interested the whole way.
Well, cool. Does the you compare the platforming stuff to like a Mega Man or a Celeste? Is it super challenging like Celeste got, or is it pretty accessible?
Well, so first of all, I think like it's interesting how similar it feels to Celeste, because I think it only came out a few months after Celeste did.
Oh, interesting.
So it's hard to say how much of it was could have been inspired by Celeste. I feel like they must have been working on this at the same time.
Yeah, it sounds like the timelines probably were pretty simultaneous.
Yeah, but you're doing a lot of similar things. Like you have kind of the wall jump and it just feels very Celeste at points. But in terms of difficulty, it gives you a bunch of sort of accessibility options like Celeste did, where I believe you can just turn off like the health bar, and you can make it so you can't die. And I think I saw an option in there where it's like instead of jumping, you just float around, and you can you can disable some of the walls in the power plant. So it feels very like, if you can't deal with the platforming, just like don't deal with it anymore. Just turn it all off, and it's fine.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that was one of Celeste's things too, is that all of those things were modifiable and had little sliders and switches attached to them, so you could, if a particular move or challenge was befuddling you, you could basically turn off the elements that led you to that point.
Yeah, and it actually goes a step further. Is when you start the game, it offers you a few different sort of I don't know what you call it, just different modes of play. So the one I'm on is the recommended one is the complete mode, where you play both the story and the platforming sections. And then there are two other modes. One is just the platforming, and the other is just the story sequences.
Oh, interesting.
Depending on your taste in video games, you can just cut one of them entirely out if you're not feeling it. But since this is my first time playing, I thought, I'd better do the complete mode, see what this game is all about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so back to your question about the difficulty. I am actually amazed by the difficulty balance that they have managed to strike here. Because going into it, I mean, first of all, it's not as difficult as Celeste, which is fine. I actually kind of like I'm not always in the mood to play Celeste, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Celeste is without sort of modifications. Celeste is pretty challenging.
It's quite difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you go into this, and they teach you about the light and dark meter, and how you'll die if you move it all, the wrong direction. And you get all this stuff about, if you balance it this way, you can jump higher. If you balance it the other way, you can jump longer. So I thought, okay, this is going to be, I'm going to be making all these like breakneck decisions about and having to rebalance my meter to execute all these jumps and everything. There are also these fragile sort of like, I forget what they are. They're like lenses or mirrors or something you need to carry through the power plants and install them in specific places, and they break very easily if you like bump into stuff carrying them. So that's just another thing you have to worry about. So going into rooms in this, you just go, oh man, here are all the little obstacles I have to deal with, and there are all these things I have to think about, like not getting out of balance and everything. And it seems like it's going to just be, there's just a lot going on. But what it ends up being is it just feels like I've barely died or failed any individual room on this. And what it feels like, it just gives you the impression that it's going to like be difficult and very demanding. But when you actually do it, it's pretty simple to execute if you're just paying attention to stuff.
Oh, good.
But it's amazing because I like, even after going through some of these rooms and like not really having any difficulty with it, I don't feel that like, oh, this game is way too easy. Like they're just letting me get away with everything. It is just this incredibly precise balance of like, just, I don't even know how to describe it. Just being aware of what you're doing, I guess, which sounds like a very low bar. But, as long as you're not just running blindly through all these rooms, it's fine. It's just the perfect amount of challenge, which is incredible. And I don't know how they did it.
Well, playtesting, feedback, right?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of those things that, maybe some developers don't spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, but, even with stuff like Celeste, like I got that it's supposed to be difficult, but they're definitely feels very uneven. Like some rooms you just go through no problem, and then other ones you get stuck on for like 15 or 20 minutes. It's like,
yeah.
You just can't make it through.
Yep.
But it's great. It's great. It's a great game to just like hang out and relax with, which I think is just a thing that all of their games have in common. They're just it's a good game to just chill out with. It's not super stressful. The music is very soothing and like dreamlike. The stories are always very surreal. It's just a fun experience that is not incredibly demanding on the player. But it feels like you're playing a video game because you're just doing all this Mega Man stuff. It's just very like player friendly. So
that's cool.
Having a great time with it. Looking forward to seeing where the story goes because it is going to some weird places. Surprising that, I mean, I'm guessing what happened is everybody was just obsessed with Celeste at the time when this came out and may have overlooked it, which is too bad because everything these guys do is been so just unique and kind of weird in their own signature way.
Cool. Yeah, this is one of those things that I like, when you put it on the outline for this episode, I was like, oh, I've heard of that game. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it plays. I just know the title. I've heard of it before. And I don't know what context either, but it may have just been, so many games come out in a year. You can't possibly play or even pay attention to all of them. So, somehow this one just got absorbed into the ether. So, I'm glad you had occasion to go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a huge fan of Anodyne 2 and Anodyne 1. That was also good. It's just nice to see that they have such a consistently good track record with these things. I don't know, that sounds like such an impersonal way of saying that I enjoy their stuff. But it's really good.
Cool. Are there are 3 games? It's Anodyne 1 and 2 and Even the Ocean?
I think they have a few more even. I'm not completely versed with their catalog. They have a couple other oddities in there that may have been solo projects, but I'll work my way through them eventually. I'm having such a good time with this one. This may be my favorite one so far, that I feel even more just like motivated to check out some of the other stuff before this new one comes out. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
More weird old games, please. That's another thing. It just feels like all of their stuff feels like very deliberate throwbacks to either like the 16-bit era or sort of early 3D graphics, like the PlayStation 1 era. It's super fun. It's just a very, very nostalgic kind of atmosphere. It's good. Yeah.
Well, those your 2 points of references for the the platforming sections are Mega Man and Celeste, and there's a lot of years between those 2 franchises, right? So, there's probably an element of timelessness to this thing that you could drop it in anywhere and it would still be relevant somehow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, that is Even the Ocean. It's out on a bunch of stuff. I'm playing it on Switch, but I believe it's at least on Steam and like maybe itch, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the Nintendo eShop is running just a big indie game sale right now. And every time I browse the shop, I'm like, oh, that game. Oh, it's only $4. So I've over the last couple of weeks, I have, I don't know, not even a couple of weeks, last 3 or 4 days, I've made a pretty serious investment in future gaming.
Was this one of them?
This was not, no, but I kind of want to pop it open now and see if it's on sale.
Yeah. Or, just get it anyway, because it's pretty good. Yeah. I think you'd probably be into it. And if you're not, you can just turn off half of the game. Turn off whichever half you're not into.
Which is basically how I sort of made my way through much of Celeste. It was sort of like, I would walk into some of those rooms and I was like, I don't know if
not dealing with this one today.
No. Oh, and something's chasing me? Even better. So I would go into those little settings and like gravity, 50%. Yeah. And just really kind of make it as not easy. You still have to put in a little bit of work, but just was not willing to beat my head against a wall to get through Celeste.
There is a section of this, like every power plant has their own sort of unique set of mechanics, very much like how each area in Celeste had a kind of a different gimmick to it. But there's one area where there's just like a thing that chases you, which I can't stand in any game. So I was just like, oh, here we go. But in line with everything else about this game, it's like the most casually you've ever been chased in a game. It's like, oh, the thing is getting closer, but it's just so easy to avoid it. And it'll overshoot you and then just take forever to turn around and come back at you. So it's just like, here he comes. It's just kind of silly. It's really good.
I just kind of wish he'd chase me a little harder, right?
Yeah, maybe, but like not that much.
No.
Like I was saying, it's just the difficulty balance they've struck is just incredible. It may be the best that I've seen in any game. It's just amazing.
That's great.
So speaking of incredibly difficult games.
Oh, yeah. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Just, yeah. It's the Elden Ring of Kirby games.
Yeah. Oh, man. We just moved on from Dark Souls at this point. Everything's Elden Ring.
It's an Elden-like. No, I don't know. It's... I've had sort of a weird kind of roller coaster of emotions with this new Kirby game, and that I think like a lot of folks, and I've alluded to this a couple of weeks ago when the demo came out, saw the trailer for the new Kirby game and thought, oh, Kirby in 3D, and it looked like kind of a big open world thing, and I was like, oh, we're doing like an Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild kind of thing. This is Nintendo's new MO, as it takes these franchises and puts them into big open or semi-open worlds. And then the demo was not that. The demo was pretty linear.
Yeah, demo was just a Kirby game.
Yeah, it really was just a Kirby game, but in 3D. I think, unfortunately, but by nature of consuming that marketing in the way that I did and, believing the internet's bullshit, decided that I was disappointed that it wasn't Kirby's Breath of the Wild. But I don't know. I don't know if now that the game is here and I've been playing it and I've put quite a few hours into it, I don't know that I want Kirby's Breath of the Wild. I think this is kind of what I want. This is
turns out you just like Kirby games.
I just like Kirby games, and they don't need to be giant open worlds and to be fun. That they just need to be what this is, which is pretty level based, still pretty linear, lots of collectibles, lots of fun little hidden secrets and sort of conditions. One of the things that I think is kind of fun and a little infuriating about this is that at the end of each level, you get this little laundry list of things you did and could have done that was not visible to you before you started the level.
I remember this.
Yeah, so you get a little checklist at the end that was sort of like rescue 4 Waddle Dees, and pretty pedestrian things like that. But then you get into weird little molecular things where it's sort of, at one point it's like there's a level on the beach and it's like find 4 seagulls, and I'm like, where were there seagulls? I didn't see any seagulls. So back to the level I go to find the seagulls. So each little segment comes with this little shopping list of fun little achievements and things you can do. And it ties all of those things to your ability to continue moving through the game, finding more Waddle Dees to get through little barriers. If you want to start the next level, you've got to find 10 Waddle Dees. There is also a fun little gotcha capsule collectible game in this where you get little coins to spin through a machine, and it pops out a little capsule with a little figure inside of something from the Kirby universe. Yeah. With a wall of text explaining its sort of history and lineage and how it came to be and things like that. And you go back to sort of Waddle Dee Town and Kirby can admire his little collection of capsule toys. And it's just adorable and fun, and I want to collect all of them.
I think I saw a clip of this because it looks like he's just got a bunch of amiibos out on the table.
He does.
But in the background, like as you are admiring the statues, Kirby is also admiring them.
Correct.
And he's just enormous and kind of ominous in the background.
It's funny. I mean, they didn't have to go that way. It could have just been a little collectible that you as the player look forward to, but it's, even more fun that Kirby's also equally invested and gets very excited to play with his toys.
I wonder what Kirby does on his downtime.
It is downtime,
Assuming he just eats a bunch of stuff. Maybe takes it
So I'm full, guys. I could not eat another thing. I'm told, and I've not revealed a ton of this to myself yet. You go back to Waddle Dee Town, which has the hook here is that enemies, I think they're aliens, who look like cute, adorable little foxes, have invaded and have basically destroyed Waddle Dee Town and stolen all the Waddle Dees, taken them away to some nefarious end. So you're trying to get them back. And as you bring them back, as you collect them and capture them and rescue them, they start rebuilding their little hometown. And there's a little mini games that sort of reveal themselves back at the hometown. There's a little fishing game. There's a little cooking game. There's a movie theater you can go to. Little things like that. So you're doing a little bit of base building too in a Kirby game. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just, it's breezy. It's just sort of impossibly kind of cute and charming. The Forgotten Land is clearly kind of a post-apocalyptic version of like the modern world. There's like decrepit skyscrapers with, think of The Last of Us, like, nature is reclaiming this sort of like parallel universe that Kirby has been whisked away to. But even in that sort of decrepitude, the sun's always shining, the water's always blue, the music is always a jaunty tune for Kirby to go about his day with. And yeah, he's just, dealing with the modest fight that the aliens are putting up by basically, inhaling them and taking their powers to fight back. Yeah.
Yeah. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into.
Nope. Just a one-man wrecking machine.
It does seem very one-sided. I mean, like, my experience with the demo was it is so hard to, like, not make it through these levels. Because you just eat everything, and he has a very long health bar. But it does kind of like make it hilarious in perspective, where it's like, oh yeah, they're just throwing tons of these fox things at Kirby, and they're just so ineffective. It's just like they really should have thought this through.
It is funny that like the most of the time as Kirby you spend with an absorbed ability. There's one where you have a little hat made of fire, and when you wear the little hat that's on fire, you can shoot fireballs. There's one where you've got like a little crown made of icicles, and when you have that, you shoot. Believe it or not, snow at people, and they freeze into ice chunks, and then you can, as Kirby, you bump the ice chunks, and they slide into the other bad guys and just wipe out everybody around them. And the fun part about that is when Kirby has the little ice crown on, he no longer just walks across the level; he puts his hands behind his back and he kind of ice skates.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's the attention to detail is something I admire here. There's a lot of fun little animations like that. But yeah, the aliens are barely even trying. Most of them quite often are asleep. You sneak up on them while they're just dozing under a tree.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, and if you don't have an ability on, Kirby like throws his arms to the out to his sides, opens his mouth, and just inhales a vortex of the universe. It's the biggest, grandest like inhalation animation I've seen in a Kirby game. Like the screen warps around it and stuff like that, and just sucks up everything. And so you get like these sequences where like, invisible walls will go up and like just an army, a parade of these little alien foxes will come charging after you. And really just Kirby just cleans house by vacuuming them all up. And they never stood a chance.
That's so
the challenge here is not necessarily, sorry to step on your point, the challenge is not necessarily, am I going to survive this level? But the challenge and the fun is really in sort of sussing out the secrets, piecing together all of the things on those shopping lists, finding all of the fun little applications for the mouthful mode, which is where Kirby kind of takes, most people have seen at this point the footage of him basically kind of half inhaling a Volkswagen Beetle and turning into a car for a little while. There's dozens of things like that throughout the course of the video game that Kirby kind of wraps his mouth around in a totally PG way. And gets new powers and new abilities and access to fun little secrets and things that you didn't necessarily and couldn't necessarily get into before. So that is the fun and the challenge of this thing. It's not necessarily, am I going to beat the bad guy?
Yeah, it's not there for the combat. All right.
Right. Which is fun and compelling and a good reason to sort of explore all the fun little hats and abilities that Kirby can absorb, but it's absolutely not the headline here.
Yeah. That was something one of my takeaways from the demo. I was like, oh wow, this is like, in terms of confrontation with enemies, it's so simple. And despite the fact that they even added that like the wild difficulty mode, it's still just so easy. And I remember like the earlier Kirby games having some pretty memorable boss battles and being slightly more challenging. But maybe it's just because I played those when I was like 10 years old or whenever those came out.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that there's still like hidden secrets for you to find, since it sounds like the combat would not be a huge draw for me in this.
Yeah. Yeah. It has little side challenges that are kind of fun as you start to explore the map, which is this big 3D rendering of a planet, essentially, that you sort of fly your little star around.
Mm-hmm. That was also not in the demo. There's like, so I played the demo for this. We talked about it, and it just, from what I've seen, it was they trimmed certain things out of it for whatever reason, but I feel like I don't know. The demo sold it a little short, you might say.
I agree. That's my take on it too. Is I did not think it was an especially compelling demo, and the game, as I get further into it, is kind of fun. I'm kind of hooked on it. Actually, having a good time with it. But as you progress and you open up more of this kind of world map, you get little side challenges, little off the beaten path kind of things that you can find while you're exploring the overworld. And as you drop into them, what you find is not like a level you explore like the rest, but it's you get one ability, you get one cool hat to put on, and then just a 2 or 3.5 minute long just assault using that. that skill or that ability. So
like
there's
against enemies?
Yeah, against enemies or against targets or against terrain obstacles. There's
okay.
so there's one where you have like an elephant gun, like a giant shotgun, an old timey one though, where the front of it kind of opens up like a trumpet. Mm-hmm. And Kirby puts on a little like a 1930s explorer's hat, and you basically have a huge shotgun with a little targeting reticule, and you can use it to sort of destroy terrain. And there's little targets that float by, and you kind of lock onto them and blow them up. And the longer you hold down the trigger, the bigger the explosion is. So basically they put a little timer on and then throw a ton of targets and enemies and walls and stuff in front of you, and you have to blast your way through everything. And it's super, super fun. And you get to the end and it's like, oh, it took you, 2 minutes and 46 seconds. The target was 2:30. Do you want to try again? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to try again. I got to shave off 13 seconds, Kirby.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds good. I mean, my experience with the overworld sections, or not the overworld, but like the level sections, where it feels like you're just picking up these powers arbitrarily, is it just felt like, yeah, you use whatever you feel like. They're all equally as effective as the others for getting you through this level. And none of them felt like, oh, I really need that icicle power to do this one specific thing.
Yeah.
So the challenge levels sound a little bit more like, like in Mario Odyssey, where you would be required to have a specific ability at certain points.
Or you couldn't even get through. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're just like bespoke sections that are designed around having that power. It just makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I do kind of wish that there was a little more sort of deliberate use of some of those abilities in the exploration levels. But they are really just meant to be sort of, achievable based on whatever hat you have on at the time, or whichever one you like. There's actually a sequence in a rundown old shopping mall where you have the boss is coming. You're kind of you're basically trying to find your way to the food court to take on the boss there, and in one of the store windows there's a display of 4 or 5 of the different abilities that you've collected thus far, and you get to at that point basically pick whichever one you like the most.
Yeah, that was my exact thinking when I ran into that, because I was like, okay, clearly, they're setting up a boss battle that's coming up right around the corner. Yeah. Which one of these is going to be the most effective? Like, are they subtly hinting that I should pick a specific one of these somehow? But then I just realized, well, up to this point, it has made no difference which one I have picked or which one I've been using. So I'm just going to pick my favorite one, and it was fine.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how the whole thing is tuned, I feel like, on those kind of those main levels. It's really in the sort of secondary ones, the side ones, where they give you like a specific ability, and all the challenges hinge on that. So I think kind of scratching both itches, which is good.
Yeah, that's just how Kirby rolls. He's such an easygoing guy. He's like, I'll just use whatever power. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a sort of Nintendo's kind of take on accessibility here too. Is that if you're a slightly more experienced gamer, or want a little bit more of a challenge, or are down for the exploration and a little bit of fun combat, then you have those main levels to kind of navigate your way through. If you want something a little more challenging and a little bit more of a power fantasy, you get those secondary ones, those side ones, where you can exploit some of those abilities a bit. So yeah, I think it's good. And I mean, their approach to co-op in this too is not something that necessarily is going to get utilized in my house, but it's very much sort of like a parent mode, or a big brother or a big sister mode.
Yeah.
Where
How does
you
that
play
work?
as a Waddle Dee who has a little spear and a bandana on. And in fact, his name is Bandana Waddle Dee.
Okay, yeah.
And he just, with the second controller, a second person runs around with the little spear and can sort of fight some of the monsters and stuff like that.
Just
but it can't do
stabbing
anything.
stuff.
Just basically popping stuff, yeah.
Okay.
But you can't do anything else. You don't do any of the mouthful stuff. You can't take over any of the abilities from the other enemies that you defeat. You're really just there for support in a lot of ways. In fact, the camera doesn't even focus on you.
Yeah.
The camera only follows Kirby, and if Kirby runs too far to the right, it just rushes you along to catch up with him. So it's very much
doesn't put you in a bubble or anything.
Nope. It just zooms you right over to where Kirby is and gets you right back to the center of the screen.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's very much, if you got little kids at home that are just sort of checking out video games for the first time, Kirby's super appealing, right? He's bright and pink and kind of funny looking. And yeah, maybe as a parent, you can hop in as the little Waddle Dee for support sometimes, or vice versa, however you want to approach it. But again, I think Nintendo is very much trying to make a product that sort of appeals to quite a few different types of gamers, no matter where they're at.
Yeah.
Which is kind of their thing, right?
Yeah, that's good. I've never really thought, I don't know how long that has been a specific thing with the Kirby series, but it makes sense to me if you were to just say, oh yeah, that was their plan all along. Video games for a slightly younger and less experienced audience than, say, Super Mario World or whatever the Mario game out at the time was.
Yeah. Yeah. And Breath of the Wild is not accessible in this way. That clearly was not one of their tenets when crafting that. Is there are elements of Breath of the Wild that are quite challenging. The combat alone is pretty dense and tough and a little unforgivable sometimes. Kirby's not crafted with that in mind by any stretch.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good that you're also still able to enjoy it.
Oh yeah, very much so. There's definitely, I don't mind a good collectathon in a video game. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a sucker for a shopping list of things you need to do in a video game, and it depends on the application, of course, and the means by which you achieve those things. But it's been fun to sniff those things out in Kirby.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just fun to run around in some gorgeous looking environment and you'll use all these cool superpowers.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be fighting back every second.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, the exploration is really fun. There are little parts where you're sort of like, oh man, I think I can get up there. Let me see if I can get up there. So it definitely has these fun little kind of, like Mario Odyssey did, these little nooks and crannies where you feel like, geez, if I string together a couple of these little moves, maybe I can get to this little secret area. And I've never been disappointed.
He still
it's always
flies
sort of
around,
worth
right?
the effort. Yeah. He flies around, and he's got a fun jump too, where if you kind of short a jump and you hold down the jump button, he'll flap his little arms and puff up his cheeks a little bit, and he kind of gains a little hair of a height, so you can kind of jump to things that seem just a little hair away from you, a little too high up. His skills for getting around in the water are pretty good. He hops into the water and he turns into a little float. He turns into a little swimming, and his little arms kind of paddle the little inner tube and stuff around. It's just he's an all around pretty agreeable guy. He's good in all kinds of terrain, there's the skill set, the ability set is pretty limited. But again, I think the developers have been pretty deft at kind of creating challenges that sort of meet Kirby where he's at.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
Did you take a side job at the cafe yet?
I've not. No, unfortunately
No,
not.
oh man.
No, I've not. I've not spent a lot of time developing the things back in Waddle Dee Town. I have enough. It keeps telling me, "Oh, you've got enough to unlock the next thing, the next little project or objective back in Waddle Dee Town." But I'm kind of steamrolling through some of these levels and trying to, I replay them twice to look for all the secrets and stuff like that. So I'll get there. It'll be there waiting for me, I'm sure. But I'm not lacking for content anywhere else.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear about. I just wanted the definitive report. How does this cafe part-time job match up to other video games
where you make coffee?
Jobs? Yeah.
Okay. Next week I will come prepared. Absolutely.
Next week. Okay, good.
I've got my homework.
Oh. Well, cool. You sounded very lukewarm on this after the demo, so glad it is it's turned around a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I have an appreciation for what they're doing with this thing.
Nice.
So that's Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That is the new one, which came out last week. It's been pretty fun so far.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is
we
this?
get
Do
people
you
who
have
ask
any
us
inkling whether this is like one of those 60-hour, just you play it forever kind of games? Or how long is this going to go?
I mean, if you're counting sort of replays to find all the collectibles and secrets, I doubt it's still going to be 60 hours. But How Long to Beat says it's somewhere in the vicinity of like 10 to 15.
Oh, that seems short.
Oh yeah, just again super breezy by comparison to some of the intensity of other things.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah. The thing I have in my brain, and this is my sort of final thought on Kirby and the Forgotten Land here, until I get further into it anyways and start managing a cafe, apparently, is that we get asked occasionally on our Drunktacular, like, what video games would you recommend to get my partner into video games or to get my kids into video games? I feel like Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of those stealth games that works at those levels for a lot of the reasons I just said. But Kirby's just a very sort of appealing kind of character, and he's cute and funny and super animated, kind of mysterious. And it's just super accessible. There's nothing here that's really crazy taxing. I think like the Lego games before, they sort of meet gamers kind of where they're at. I think there's enough there to sort of appreciate. They kind of operate with, one or two buttons. You don't have to manage the camera too much. They're not fiddly in that way. They're really just super accessible to all kinds of gamers. So,
and you're doing like video game stuff the whole time. You're just like pushing buttons. You're like swinging a lightsaber around or whatever. They're not. You're not just being destroyed by super difficult enemies. It's just like a fun, wholesome time.
Yeah. I think that the fun part of those Lego games is that you see just a little dancing pile of Legos, and you go walk over to it, and a little Y icon pops up, and you hold down the Y button, and you build something out of Legos. And I'm like, I wonder how many versions of that they went through in the Lego games to try to just get that as sort of obvious and fun and satisfying as it is in the final version. Anytime I go into any place new in any of those Lego games, I'm like, where's the dancing little pile of Legos to make a thing? And it's always some door or some device or some switch or something that moves you forward into another objective, into another, part of the Batcave or whatever you're trying to get through in the Lego game. So again, just super accessible, super satisfying. And I think Kirby and the Forgotten Land has a lot of those kind of mechanics built into it too.
Okay, wait a minute. How many of those Lego games have you played?
Well, see, here's my thing, is that Sarah loves those games. Like Sarah,
okay.
Not a huge gamer, but is a huge fan of the Lego, all of those Lego games. Like, I don't know that she's ever seen a Lord of the Rings movie, but has played all of the Lord of the Rings video games with Legos.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so Christmas rolls around, birthday rolls around. It's the time that I sort of start Googling what Lego game came out since the last major holiday. Because I know that that's something that I can hand her my Switch and pop in a video game, and she will have no end of fun with. And I just find it super entertaining to see her hooked on a video game.
Oh, that's fun. Did you do the co-op thing?
We have in the past, yeah. We've done quite a few of the Batman ones specifically.
Oh, excellent.
Co-op, yeah.
I was just thinking, like, hearing you talk about it, you're like, oh yeah, I love those, Lego games. I've played like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or played all of them. I'm just thinking about it, which one's the Lord of the Rings one, the Star Wars one, like Harry Potter, all your favorite sort of franchises.
Yep.
Just trying to
What was the last one we got? The last one we got was the Marvel Villains one, I think.
Oh yeah, another
or DC
yeah,
Villains. DC
them.
Villains. And
I could see you going for the DC Villains one, actually.
Yeah. Had a good time with that. Yeah. But she's played more of those at this point than I have. Those are
catch up.
Those are good. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a closet Lego video game fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever reviewed any of those on this show.
I don't know if we were talking about Lego game. I haven't played any of those, aside from a few demos. It's like the Star Wars ones, but those are very good.
Yeah. So yeah. Kirby, man. Buy a copy and get all of your non-gamer friends to play with you.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I feel like a lot of those, I picture Kirby games as generally being handheld, or like, not in a great format where it's easy to play co-op. So, this is great. You can just throw it up on a TV or wherever.
Yeah, well, that's the blessing of the Switch, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of hit both of those categories.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I think that about does it, right? Or anything else? Any other video games?
I think that's it.
I got nothing else.
That's all of them.
If you need, that's every single one ever made. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you can always follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to hang out with us on Discord and chat about video games and other fun stuff. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. And geez, help us out. Give us a little review, subscribe, rate us, all that fun stuff on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment on YouTube. Leave us some wacky thing that was on your mind. I don't know.
The YouTube comment section, man, I feel like, that is just a questionable wasteland of internet content, and we're not really kind of maximizing that at all. We need your help.
Yeah. You could be the most infamous commenter on the VG Hangover YouTube channel. Imagine that.
You absolutely could. Yep.
Yeah.
And then really the big thing, the most helpful thing here is to tell your friends about the show.
Yes, that's great. Really helped us get the word out. We appreciate it a lot. If you would just recommend us to somebody.
Yeah.
I want to give special thanks again to Protodome this week for our intro and outro music. We would like to recommend to you that you go to protodome.bandcamp.com, listen to more of his stuff there. Maybe buy some albums if you're into it. Yeah. Oh, and what's this? I hear a little bird told me that this Friday, April 1st, is Bandcamp Friday. What does that mean? That means they get more... Does that mean they get all of the proceeds from any albums you buy?
On Bandcamp Friday, Bandcamp waives their cut. They basically take no money from the artists who create the content on their site. So if you buy Protodome music on Friday, April 1st, he gets 100% of the money that you put in.
Nice. Okay, so that thing where I said go to his Bandcamp and buy all the stuff, don't do that if you're listening to this the day the show comes out on Thursday. But tomorrow, go to protodome.bandcamp.com, maybe buy an album or two, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
And while you're there, sniff around for other cool stuff.
Yeah.
We have links. If you go to VGHangover.com, there's links to all kinds of cool video game music. If you join our Discord, we have a whole video game music channel with tons of fun recommendations as well.
We actually...
DJ and I can always tell you about music you should buy on Bandcamp.
Yeah, I was going to say that we primarily find our intro and outro music artists through Bandcamp, so they all have Bandcamp pages. You should just go buy the entire back catalog of theme songs from here on the show.
Yeah. And April 1st is a great day to do it.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. No joke. Ho, ho.
So we'll be back next week. Stay safe on April 1st. Do not go on the internet. Except to go to Bandcamp and buy things.
Just stay on Bandcamp. It's fine.
Believe nothing you see on Twitter. And we'll catch up with you soon. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. Good night and goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.